Welcome back everyone to another Downward Day. And on today's edition of the Downward Diary, I just wanted to offer some of my thoughts on one of the bigger ongoing controversies in the world of video games. So Nintendo has been getting ready for the release of the Switch 2, and they ended up confirming a great fear of a lot of gamers, where the prices of their first-party titles are going up. As things stand now, the new Mario Kart game is set to release with an $80 digital download. And thus far, there's been a lot of online backlash and resentment towards Nintendo for setting this new precedent where it appears that the AAA gaming industry is really set on creeping the price of new games up into the $100 range. For almost a year now, we've been hearing rumors that GTA 6 is planned for release with a $100 price tag. And this Nintendo news is all of a sudden making that possibility seem a lot more like a reality. It appears that the age of the $100 game may soon be upon us. Suffice to say, people are not taking this well. As soon as people saw that $80 Mario Kart is a real thing, a lot of them seem to have reached their breaking point. A lot of people are so offended that they're saying they're going to boycott Nintendo and refuse to buy the new Switch or any of the new games. And before I get into what I have to say, I just want to state for the record that it's a good thing for consumers to stand up to corporate greed.
The customer's always right. That's what everybody likes about us.
I think people are justified in being upset and offended by the situation. I'm personally someone with no patience for anti-consumer practices, and I think that my existing body of work on this channel should speak for itself in this regard. Last year, I posted 2 videos criticizing Valve, who most gamers hold up on this hallowed pedestal as being this guardian angel of consumer relations. So I think it should be pretty evident when I tell you that I am no corporate bootlicker. So believe me when I say that what I'm going to talk about next has nothing to do with any sort of desire of seeing corporations somehow walk away with even more money. But when I saw all these people collectively come together and shout, "Why would Nintendo do this?" my first reaction was honestly, why wouldn't they? Like, honestly. Ask yourself, what is legitimately stopping any of these video game publishers from raising their prices? Because if you ask me, it's pretty much nothing. Oh my gosh, guys, can you believe it? How can Nintendo possibly think they're gonna get away with this? I don't know, maybe because you literally let them get away with it the last 17 times they tried something exactly like this. And this is the part I find so frustrating about this whole situation. Where yes, people are justified in being outraged. My question is, where was this outrage for the past 15 years? How come I almost never heard a peep from the gradual degradation of standards in the gaming industry towards making everything more anti-consumer? This has been an ongoing process for at least a decade. But only now that magic number of $80 has been reached are people actually bothering to care. And again, I'm not trying to come off as blaming the victim here. But since when are people acting like they're just discovering that Nintendo is a greedy company after all this time? Like they somehow had this spotless, consumer-friendly reputation up until this very moment. If you seriously look at the discourse around this and see what people have to say, many of them are acting like this is the first time Nintendo has done anything greedy, or that Nintendo has somehow crossed this arbitrary threshold of greed that is all of a sudden no longer acceptable. Like, alright, I guess this is where we're drawing the line in the sand. And that's why, to me, part of the sentiment behind this whole drop the price movement feels a little bit squirrely. It's as if the Nintendo consumers complaining about this whole thing are approaching it with some sort of fake obliviousness, where they're acting like Nintendo's decision to raise the price of their digital downloads to $80 was some sort of unforeseen, spontaneous tragedy, rather than what it is, which is a logical and predictable outcome from a long pattern of bad behavior. Guys, I'm sorry if this is the first time you're hearing about it, but Nintendo has been doing stuff exactly like this for the past 15 years plus. But up until just now, the gaming consumer base has been seemingly content with letting it all slide. Nintendo fans in particular seem to have this remarkable selective memory over the company's misdeeds. OMG guys, $80 for a game, how could they do this? Well, how about those $80 controllers you guys have been buying for the past 8 years that have a significant chance of being defective? Like, does anyone remember the whole Joy-Con drift controversy? Or has the magical amnesia kicked in already? Oh my gosh guys, Nintendo's releasing 10-year-old games and charging full price for them! Well yeah, they've been doing this during the entire Switch's lifespan as well. It's just that for some reason back then, no one bothered to complain about it. Guys, can you believe they added a button on the controller that you have to pay money to use? Oh yes, how can I forget the Nintendo paid online service that used to be free? I wonder who was responsible for rewarding the company from transitioning a free service to a paid service. It couldn't possibly have been us, the consumers, who very eagerly sat there and gladly paid for the Switch online service when it came out. And I've already personally covered all these issues before on a now 4-year-old video on the main channel. Nintendo's greed was very obvious and documented back then, so why should it be a surprise now? When I first heard the news that Nintendo was going ahead with $80 games, I was not surprised in the slightest. Because if you actually pay attention, this is totally in line with how they've already been operating as a business. So it's no wonder why Nintendo is asking for even more money. At every step of the way thus far, the consumers have been willing to pay them off. So why should this time be any different? You have to realize that in business, every action is an interaction. Every single sale comes down to two opposing sides. And this is a tough pill to swallow for so many people. But consumers have a degree of culpability when it comes to steering businesses towards more greedy decisions. 4 years ago, I was originally inspired to make the Nintendo video to convey this exact message. Because this was a time when Nintendo was being excessively cruel towards many community grassroots projects. They'd been on this warpath of ruthlessly shutting down various emulators and fan games. But what truly made me sick about the whole situation is this seemingly total lack of regard from Nintendo's consumer base about how the company was blatantly mistreating innocent people. It wasn't even like these Nintendo fans were indifferent. In many cases, they would outright defend Nintendo's actions, almost like they had a desire for Nintendo to be able to abuse their copyright and intellectual property rights to an even more severe degree. I remember all of this, because the moment I chose to comment on this whole situation publicly, I had Nintendo fanboys coming out of the woodwork to attack me for what they perceived as a slight offense to their corporate overlord. And I know for a fact that many of those fanboys who attacked me back then are now bitching and complaining about $80 games today. Where now, all of a sudden, it's a real problem when Nintendo's corporate abuse is affecting them. So again, you'll have to forgive me if I find some of these theatrics about $80 games to be a little bit insincere. All these guys now want to have the conversation about affordability and accessibility. You didn't really seem to care about any of those things, while Nintendo has spent the last 25 years trying to destroy emulation and make it illegal. If you want to talk about accessibility, quite literally the only way for much of the world to experience most of Nintendo's back catalog of games is to play them on an emulator, because the company refuses to offer a legal means of purchasing them. When it came to defending emulation from Nintendo's attacks, most of the consumer base just turned a blind eye. I mean, after all, Nintendo was just exercising their legal right, just like they're exercising their legal right now to price gouge you for a digital download. Ignorance and inaction have consequences. $80 games are a consequence of gaming consumers not sticking up for themselves when the rug was already being pulled out from under them at an earlier time. People really think that Nintendo is making this absurd, financially ruinous decision. I don't. I think it's going to pay off for them, just like everything else has for the past 10 years. The people in charge at Nintendo are not stupid. You don't get to be the #1 company in Japan by having a bunch of stupid people make the decisions. Nintendo knows their own audience better than anyone else, and they know the truth, that Nintendo fans and Nintendo fanboys are loyal to a fault, that most of them will follow the Pied Piper off a cliff if they lead them there. And who knows, maybe this is the last straw for a lot of people where they finally break the spell. And for once, Nintendo actually gets punished for their greedy, anti-consumer behavior. I would like to see that happen. I'm just not really sure if it's actually gonna. There's certainly a lot of backlash and boycotting going on right now, more than I've ever seen before. But I can't help but wonder that once the new Mario and the new Smash Bros. And the new Zelda start to come out, if all this supposed solidarity is just gonna be a bunch of smoke and mirrors. So for all you Nintendo fans out there who actually want to prove a point, when the time comes, You all had better put your money where your mouth is, or else you should just stop wasting your breath and stop wasting my time.